I think the very first thing you do is you turn inward. And you sit with yourself and really think about what hurts your heart. When you look out at the world, what is it that makes you feel that's not right? There has to be a better way. And if you start there, then you've identified your purpose.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you who come back every week to listen, learn, and grow. Now, one of the things that I love about the podcast is I get to connect with people that I've followed for a while, that I've seen, that I've appreciated and admired their work from afar. And then somehow we find a way to each other and get to connect and get to find out about their incredible lives, their journeys, and what they've been through. And today's guests are Debra Messing and Mandana Dayani for the show. Now, Debra Messing is the best known for her Emmy Award-winning role as Grace Adler on NBC's Emmy-winning and Golden Globe-nominated comedy series Will and Grace. She's also starred in The Mysteries of Laura and Smash, both on NBC. Her film credits include the award-winning Searching, Along Came Polly, and The Wedding Date. Messing will return to Broadway this fall, starring in Noah Hadel's new play, Birthday Candles. Now, Mandana Dayani is the creator and co-founder of I Am Voter, a nonpartisan movement that aims to create a cultural shift around voting and civic engagement. Its mission is to inspire and excite this generation by making voter identity mainstream. Mandana began her career as a corporate attorney at top international law firm. Paul Hastings transitioned into work as a talent agent and later helped launch the Rachel Zoe collection and lead the company's initiatives in business development, digital media, strategic investments, licensing, publishing, endorsements, and television production. Now, I'm so happy to have them both on the podcast today, so please give them a very big, warm, on-purpose welcome to the hosts of their own podcast, The Dissenters, produced by Debra Messing, Mandana Dayani, Eric First, and Dear Media. Welcome, Debra and Mandana. Debra and Mandana, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us here.
I hope you can feel my excitement and energy through the screen. I wish I could give you both a big hug and an on-purpose welcome, but thank you so much for making the time to do this.
Well, we feel you through the screen.
Good. I'm glad. And like I was saying to you just before we started, you're only the second double act we've ever done. And I always find the dynamic of having two dynamic individuals really exciting. So please feel free to talk over each other, to collaborate, throw your energy everywhere you like. There's no rules. So please feel free to tell me to stop talking as well. But I want to start off. Because I think people are so much right now seeking connection and friendship. And so many of us have been struggling with loneliness or feeling disconnected or even being surrounded by lots of people, but not feeling like we're around our people right now. And I wanted to find out about how you both connected and how you've continued to stay connected. Debra, you said you're in New York, and Mandana, you're in LA. How have you stayed connected during this time? So how did you meet and how have you stayed connected?
Well, Mandana and I met for a second about 15 years ago. And then several years ago, we were both on Nantucket Island for 4th of July. We had a mutual friend. And I walked into the house and I saw her and I was like, I know you. Mandana, however, let 24 hours go by without ever even acknowledging the fact that we knew each other.
I just didn't want to be the person that goes up to the famous person and is like, hi, do you remember we met 15 years ago? Like, no, I don't remember the person I met 15 years ago. So I just didn't say anything. And then she came up to me and she was like, how did you not say that we met before? And then we spent the entire vacation together. I think I was probably one of the only families that had little kids, and Debra was so loving and nurturing with our kids and playing with them. And we watched a lot of TV together during the vacation. And then we both, I think, realized how political we are and how passionate we are about activism. And so I think that's really what started as kind of like the foundation of our friendship. And I was really beginning to start the work on I Am a Voter, and Debra was just incredibly helpful in helping build and create it with me and this group of amazing women that work on the campaign every day. So I think that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. And then we fell in love. And because I was filming Will and Grace out in Los Angeles, basically we were spending every weekend together. I basically was adopted by her family while I was out there. And, the last 3 years have been really difficult spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, because of how divisive everything is. And we just started very organically sending each other articles and links to people who inspired us, with the intention of sort of, lifting each other up, because when it gets overwhelming, sometimes you just feel like all the vitality just drains your body and you feel like, I don't know, can I keep going? And so these links and these people, we'd be like, oh my God, did you see this person? Oh, wait, I have something. And then we had this like pile of, names of like extraordinary people. And then Mandana
Okay, wait,
said,
sorry, but pause 1 second. So Debra, by the way, stays up till 6 a.m. every night. Debra doesn't sleep at all. So I will wake up at 6 a.m. because that's when my daughters wake me up, and I will have a library of like 100 of the best cat and dog videos like ever on this planet. Some elephant in Africa that she has been monitoring for the last 2 years who just had a baby or like took a bath. And then it'll be these like incredible activists from around the world that are doing amazing things. And just by the way, the spectrum of the content that she sends my way is pretty spectacular. But we realized how important it was to have these role models and to see the incredible things that other people are doing. Because I think all of us have very different expectations of what it means to be an activist or what it means to be someone that gives back. And I think ultimately one day we thought like we should dispel some of the misperceptions around what it is to be an activist, because, it's something like Glennon Doyle, who's a friend of ours who was on our first episode, said like activism is something you do in conversation, on a phone with your mom, at the bus stop, in a PTA meeting. Like you can be an activist in so many ways. You don't have to start an organization. And that I think really like sat with us for a long time. And we're such nerds. So like for us, these people are like the biggest celebrities in the world. And it kind of started as a joke, like, hey, if we launched a podcast, we could meet these people.
We could make them talk to us.
And like we would get their phone numbers.
We could make them sit in a room and answer all of our questions. And so that was like the first thing.
I love
I was like, we don't have to air it. They'll never know. Like, let's just say we have a podcast and then we can just email all these people like from around the world and just be like, can you talk to us? And then we really started to put a list together, and our friend owns Dear Media. And I emailed her and I was like, hey, if we wanted to do this, would you do it? And she's like, of course. And then all of a sudden we had a podcast, and we put together our dream list of who we wanted to speak with. And I think it was really important for us with this goal of kind of really showing what activism is, was showing people that are challenging and confronting, the status quo in so many different subjects. So whether it was like gun safety, environmentalism, LGBTQ rights, animal rescue, that there's so many ways for people to show up. And people said yes, which was incredible. And these conversations just like completely blew our minds. There's so many videos I have of Debra with her jaw just open, like on the floor for 10 minutes at a time. And I would be like, hello?
The thing that I can honestly say is, we are such big nerds that we have no filter. So if these people say something extraordinary, we are screaming or we're crying, or, it's just, we are responding as if anybody in your audience was in the room and responding.
Basically, we have zero chill.
And we realized it was going to be launching during the pandemic. And we just really, it was important that we put something out there that was putting light into the world, that was giving people, some permission, some courage, inspiration, empowerment to just take the first step, not to get beyond one step. And so far the feedback has been really amazing.
People may not know this about me, but I'm a finance guy. I love staying on top of my spending habits in my personal life, and also just love making data-driven decisions. Now, of course, not everyone is like me, and that's what makes us human and different. But many people I know make enough money to live comfortably, but because they lack the oversight of their funds, they tend to struggle when it's not necessary. If you want to get a handle on your money but feel overwhelmed, don't stress, just download Albert. Albert is the personal finance app that helps you find a happy balance and make the most of what you have. Albert is similar to having a friendly personal finance expert in the palm of your hand, ready to simplify budgeting, saving, and even investing. You're probably thinking, how is an app going to help me? But what makes this different is that they actually combine real human guidance with proven technology, so you can stay in control of your finances and get the best of both worlds. We are truly living in an amazing world right now, and this is a tool I'd recommend for everyone. Why? Because I use them too, and I just started. With a subscription to Albert Genius, you'll always have a team of real human beings looking out for you. Albert Genius gives you access to real financial advisors you can message anytime through the app. Wondering how to build credit or if a fancy brunch is in your budget? Simply ask a genius. There's no more guesswork surrounding your finances. Albert Geniuses get to know your unique situation, so they can offer personalized advice. Albert tracks your income and spending throughout the week to find any more money that you can safely save without disrupting your cash flow. Albert users save an average of $400 in just 6 months, and Albert has already saved people a total of over $400 million and counting. I love the whole sign-up process. I was hesitant because my finances are private and yours should be too, but their system is extremely efficient, confidential, and secure, which I trust and value. They'll ask you for multiple passwords and methods of identification, making sure you are who you say you are, right? I enjoyed the quiz at the start, asking me questions about my lifestyle, my money, my habits, which let me know I was going to be getting personalized feedback all along the way. I cannot wait to start using the automated system for saving and their investment option. If you want to get serious about your money situation, I cannot recommend a better place to start. Install Albert from the App Store or Google Play today to find your happy balance, and get a bonus of up to $40 when you start an annual subscription to Albert Genius. This is a sad reality for many people today. The fact that some people do not have someone they can confide in when they're going through tough times. It's so difficult to be productive or even feel the slightest bit of joy when you're filled with heavy emotions. I believe everyone has their own troubles and challenges, but the ones who do best and heal fastest, in my opinion, are those who have someone they can share it all with. If you need someone to talk to right now and actually be listened to, today's sponsor will help with exactly that. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. The service is available for people worldwide. You simply log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. Now, BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today, so please don't put it off. And if you need to talk to someone, start now. Here's a testimonial from the site. Denise gives me a safe place to take care of myself. I am finding new success in managing my emotions, and her support and expertise. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Visit betterhelp.com/onpurpose. That's betterhelp.com/onpurpose and join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Special offer for On Purpose listeners: get 10% of your first month at betterhelp.com/onpurpose. That's incredible. Thank you so much. I can totally see why. You're both just electric to watch together. Even through a Zoom call, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I wish I was in Nantucket that weekend and got to spend it with both of you. But tell me about how I find that, and I love the way you both speak about activism. I feel like it's very refreshing, and at the same time I do feel that it's very real and genuine and authentic to who you are. And I guess my first question is, you said that you both just sparked and found that you both had this activism in common. Mm-hmm. But I find like for a lot of people, they actually struggle to share their opinions and beliefs and their values with each other, especially even in small circles where you could be living with someone or friends with someone and not have a clue what their personal opinion or belief or activism is on a subject. I don't know if you hear that, but I hear a lot of that in the community of like, I just had no idea that this person felt this way, or I had no idea that my mother or my father or my cousin or whatever it is had this challenge or limiting belief or battle. How have you both encouraged open, honest conversations, even when you disagree with each other or have different views? Or how have you encouraged other people to just start having those, like you said with Glennon? By the way, I love Glennon. She's been on the podcast too. And it's, in the definition she gave of like at the bus stop, on a phone call, how have you encouraged people to start feeling like they can have those conversations with confidence?
Well, Mandana, I think you can answer this because your journey to America, I think, shaped a lot of how you perceive things.
Yeah, I was actually going to say two things. I think on one hand, and so many times when you're an activist, like you just feel like you're standing naked in the middle of the street, right? Because I know that my beliefs irritate some of my friends and some of my family members, and I'm such a people pleaser. So for me to walk into a room knowing that I've offended somebody or someone doesn't agree with me, and to be able to be okay with that, I think was a very long journey for me to become okay with. So I understand the hesitation because you don't want to irritate people. Like we're bred to be peacekeepers. Culturally, I was always raised that way too. I came from like a very traditional family, and you're a woman and you're supposed to be the peacekeeper of the family. And so it took me a long time to be okay with it. But at the same time, I think also knowing that I'm entering a room as myself was incredibly liberating, to not pretend to be something that I was. I think my whole life I had struggled with, I have to be perfect. And so I created these presentations. There was the representative of Mandana that you would meet, and she was perfect. And she was so smart, and she was like the coolest person ever, but it was so fake, and keeping it up was driving me insane. And so I understand the fear of speaking up because you know that you will disappoint some people, but it is so liberating to actually be who you are. And it's so weird. It's so empowering. Like I feel more powerful than I've ever felt. Mm-hmm. I have acquired incredible people in my life. You are now going to be my friend. But, and you all of a sudden feel like you're surrounded by all these other amazing people. And that is kind of how that security is so refreshing. I came to this country, to Debra's point, we came as religious refugees. So I was about 6 years old, and that was very formative. I think, I was always raised with this hustle of just like, fake it till you make it, pretend to be American, pretend to fit in, like just hustle, hustle, hustle. No one's here to save you if you fall. And so I think that made me work harder than most people and made me really, really ambitious to like live the American dream. And we did. Like my brother's a surgeon, I was a lawyer. It was amazing. We did all the things. But I think in a weird way, I was never raised with the question of like, what actually makes you happy? No one ever asked me that. Everything that made me happy was like, that's a hobby. Oh, you like those things. You can do that on Sundays at 4 p.m. But it was very much like, have a job, be safe, blah, blah, blah. And I never really learned to challenge my own beliefs or the things that I didn't agree with culturally, with my family, with the things that I was taught. And I think it took a really long time to actually like honor my own voice, but it also took the courage of people like, and friends like Debra and other active, Sophia Bush, who I know you're friends with, who's a very close friend of mine. would just be like, say it, girl, you got it, just go. And that, that kind of encouragement. And that's why community is so important. It's so, so, so important. Shannon Watts, who has been, a friend of both of ours, really my mentor through all of my activism, is someone I check in with all the time. And I'm like, is this okay? And that is, I think, in this space of really gaining your voice and honoring your voice, having friends that push you and just tell you to keep going, that tell you it's okay. And because like you make mistakes, like as an activist, like, and this, you'll say things that'll hurt people's feelings. You say things and sometimes they're incorrect, and having your friends show up for you and be like, you know what, that wasn't cool. And this is the way to do it is so important. And to have people that say, you know what, learn from it and keep going, because we still need you. And I think surrounding yourself with people who will be honest with you, but also hold you up so you can keep going is so important.
Companies that want an edge on the competition take actions that others do not. Simply put, if you're not using NetSuite by Oracle, you're not utilizing the world's #1 cloud business system. With NetSuite, you'll have visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and even more. Everything you need all in one place. Imagine trying to run a restaurant without knowing all of the ingredients you have in stock. Just doesn't make sense, right? Whether you're doing less than $1 million, or hundreds of millions in sales, NetSuite lets you manage every penny with precision. You'll have the agility to compete with anyone, work from anywhere, and run your whole company from your phone. Join over 20,000 companies who trust NetSuite to make it happen. Here's some exclusive knowledge that if executed properly, you'll see major benefits. NetSuite surveyed hundreds of business leaders and created a playbook of the top strategies they're using now as America reopens for business. Receive your free guide, 7 actions businesses need to take now, and schedule your free product tour at netsuite.com/J. Get your free guide and schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/J. That's netsuite.com/J. Thank you so much for sharing that about your background as well. It's truly inspirational. And it's amazing to hear how much you had achieved to then question it all. Mm-hmm. And I always think that requires a lot of courage and strength to do that. And so I just want to take a moment to recognize that for anyone who's listening or watching right now, that the hardest thing to do is achieve something, and then the hardest thing to do is achieve it and then question everything you've achieved and then find and create a new path for yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I don't want to dissect so much of it, but I feel like you were just about to say something, Deborah, so I don't want to cut you off. What were you saying?
I was just saying the importance of mentors, the importance of finding the leaders that speak your language or who inspire you, and to follow their lead and to learn. So I think it is a learned skill to speak your truth. I'm already 50, and it took probably the first 35, 40 years of my life to finally be okay with people not agreeing with me and not liking that I am voicing my truth. And, like what Mandana was saying, so many of us, we are people pleasers, and it is, it's suffocating, and it really does strip you of a capacity for joy, I think. At least that was the case for me. Especially as a professional actress, to get a job, you are constantly dancing as fast as you can and it's like you are performing, trying to be nice, trying to be amiable, trying to be, that person, that one person that person wants to work with. And living in that headspace really made me realize that it was unhealthy for me, and I was choosing to sacrifice my self-esteem, essentially, because by silencing yourself, you are saying that your voice has no value. And as soon as I for me, it was professional. It was being pushed too far and finally saying, no, that's not okay. I must be respected. I respect you. And being okay with whatever fallout happened afterwards. And that has happened many times, in my adult life. And I think I realize now, the people that will not, cannot tolerate a different point of view, are not people. They're not my people. I was raised with inclusivity being, at the center of everything. And so for me, it's like, yes, you can have one opinion, I can have the other. We could have a very passionate debate about our different points of view, but we can still at the end of that conversation say, I hear you. It just doesn't sit right with, it's not my truth, but I still love you and I still respect you and God bless, and
yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah. I love hearing that because I think, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation. And by the way, I'm ignoring all of my notes and completely just included this conversation. But that's because it's going in such a, flowing in such a beautiful, natural and organic way. But what you said there, Deborah, and Mandana, what you're saying also is like, I feel that so often activism can become very attack and defense.
Yes.
When actually, and what I'm hearing, and by the way, you can totally correct me and I'm here to learn from both of you. So please completely tell me that I'm not hearing it right. But what I'm hearing is that often we see it as an attack and defense, but what I'm hearing from both of you, and I was talking about a friend today, this morning, who was talking about this and literally said these words to me. He said, so much of activism is attack and defense, but actually what we need is understanding and compassion and that non-judgment aspect that you're both mentioning of like being able to be open to the fact that other people will have different beliefs and being able to hold that space in that conversation. Because I feel like the other extreme of like cancel culture is actually more, I would love to get your thoughts on cancel culture because I have my own, and mine are that, and Mandana, you said this, you said, we all make mistakes as activists. And so when we run into things like cancel culture, we run into things like attacking or defensive activism, often what we end up doing is we end up closing the doors on people to actually change and have an opportunity to adopt a new mindset.
Yeah.
So my belief's kind of like, I'm okay with someone not having the same viewpoint as me, but I believe I need to be patient for there to be an evolution of ideation, not that they learn mine, but that we find some way not to agree, but that there is a space for growth. Does that make sense?
Totally. We talk about this quite a bit too. I think there's two things actually that you just brought up. One is, I think some people come to a conversation and they don't want to be wrong. So they don't want to hear what you have to say because what you're saying goes against what they believed. And for them to admit that means they have to admit that they may have had the wrong opinion, and they just double down. And that is just something that I think just requires like time for people to feel comfortable letting go of and being okay being wrong. And that person I find is very hard to convince in the moment, and they'll take time and usually empathy and compassion. And, it's really like, we're all just people. Like we all have stories. I think that's all, all these stories, all these activisms, just people, like it's kindness. It's what I teach my 5-year-old, right? It's activism is just kindness in a more formal way, right? It's if you all just focus on caring about other people and showing up for them, then the world feels very different. I think with cancel culture, we talk about this quite a bit. Obviously there's spectrums and it depends on what it is. But for the most part, I think a lot of us say things, and it's hard. I don't know everything. Deborah doesn't know everything. Most activists don't know everything. We're going to make mistakes. We're taking risks every single day to stand up for people's rights. We may call it the wrong thing. We may spell it incorrectly. Like, don't cancel people for stuff like that. It's not okay. It's really hard to do that work. And sometimes I'll confront someone will confront me about something and I'm like, okay, well, you try doing what they're doing and come back at me and tell me how easy it is. I mean, it's, someone was getting mad at Shannon the other day. I'm like, she's going against the NRA. Like, it's not that easy. And I think there just has to be some patience with people, because we are going to lose a lot of the good guys if we don't give them an opportunity to learn from the mistakes and grow. I think most of these people have very good intentions, and I do believe that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I also think that the source of this this combativeness in terms of opposite ideas, I think it's all fed by fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. That's why we choose to attack or defend, right? It's almost like animalistic in that sense.
Yeah.
Of territorial nature that we can sometimes mimic in our own lives. But let's say, like, I know that my community and audience can learn so much from both of you, and they already are. And I know so many of them want to be activists or want to be activated to do something. Can you give them some guidance and advice on where you start that journey? Because I feel like we've talked about, so many people get scared, and fear does one of two things. It makes you shout the loudest, or it makes you become the quietest.
Yes.
Right? Fear does that. Fear makes you hide.
That's so true. Yeah.
You just jump up and just shout out and do all this thing. And so it's like, fear doesn't drive us in a positive. It can spark positivity, but it can't sustain positivity. And that's what I find with fear as an emotion. It can get you active, but if you had to give people a step-by-step process of how you feel that they can get activated, how would you suggest that? And that's to both of you. So,
well, I think the very first thing you do is you turn inward. And you sit with yourself and really think about what hurts your heart. When you look out at the world, what is it that makes you feel that's not right? There has to be a better way. And if you start there, then you've identified your purpose. Your cause is your purpose. And then if you feel shy about taking a step, it's help the helpers, really, is finding the people who are doing the work that you admire, and just saying, I want to be near you. How can I help you? Because you'll learn so much just being a part of it, even from the outside. And eventually that will build your confidence, and it will give you a voice, and you will be able to take the next step.
I love that. Great piece of advice. Mandana, before we dive into yours as well, I just wanted to reflect on a couple of those. Like, I love the idea of going inward first. I know for me, it's been really interesting to go inward first and be like, okay, well, where am I demonstrating what I'm being an activist for? Where am I actually acting wrongly in another area of my life? So, you know, like discrimination as a subject, if someone is not being discriminating in a particular area of their life, maybe I am in another area of my life and I'm unconscious. It's an unconscious bias that exists there. And I think going inward is such a powerful way, because it sparks compassion automatically, because you're like, oh, wow, I have it too. I have that challenge too. But I also love what you're saying about, really having that joining of another community or another team that's doing it, because sometimes I think we feel so alone that we have to start something. And Mandana, you referred to this earlier, like, you feel like you have to do it all on your own. You have to feel like it's a lonely path to go and build your own. You think you have to go and build your own charity or build your own foundation, and supporting someone else's can be a great start. Yeah, I love that. Mandana, any other thoughts that you wanted to add to that?
I think to your point about failure, I hear this a lot about people are afraid of failing. And I always explain, like, you can't fail in activism, because anything is more than nothing. Right? Failing is not honoring what it is that keeps you up at night. And so, I mean, to Debra's point, there are so many people doing amazing work. I got a DM yesterday from someone that was like, I'm a graphic designer. Do you need help? I cannot tell you how badly we needed help yesterday on graphic design. It was like godsend. We were so happy. And maybe that, do that 2 hours a week and just start, and you'll learn about the organization, and now you're volunteering for them. And then you can do more, and you can do more, and you can meet more people. And there's so many ways to just show up. There's so many communities that you can join just by texting a phone number, and then all of a sudden you're getting messages of ways that you can volunteer and ways to show up. And community is, again, I keep saying it, but it is so important. When we started I'm a Voter, it was like I identified a need, and all that happened was I emailed 25 of the smartest people I've ever worked with and was like, can we all meet on Sunday? And then it all happened. It had nothing to do with me. All I did was get everyone together. And I think that time together regularly, you realize like all of a sudden these are your people. They're your friends. They're like, we help each other in business. We show up for each other. We always rally. And I think just anything I've ever regretted in my life was something I didn't do because I was afraid of it. Those are my only regrets in life. Like, I just wish that I had gone harder for the things that I was scared of.
And to your point about racism, you know, we're in a flashpoint right now. There, you know, this is a turning point in our history, and there are a lot of people who are waking up. I think what has shown me is that we're all students all the time. It doesn't matter how old we are. And, you know, I may feel like my heart is full of love and compassion, and I have committed decades of my life to helping people. But obviously I'm a white privileged woman. And so I have an implicit bias, and I have never been educated. I have never taken the responsibility on myself to educate myself. And now, because of this moment, you know, I have all of these new books and a new vocabulary to talk about something that I thought for the bulk of my life wasn't really an issue for me. And then all of a sudden it was like the curtain came up, and it was like, oh, no. Okay, now it's my accountability. It's my responsibility to be accountable. And I think that also plays into that feeling of wanting to get involved, is just being a part of the global community. You know, I remember Mandana called me right when the crisis on the border was starting. And she just got on a bus and went down to the Mexican border just to witness it, to see it with her eyes, to see the children, you know.
I literally just could not believe it. It was just no part of my brain could reconcile that this was happening in my lifetime.
And that wasn't her issue. But she just saw something that was, she had to participate in some way. And it changed her forever, witnessing that. You know, I do think the thing that I struggle with when you talk about people who have opposite views coming and finding a space where they both can coexist, I personally am struggling right now with, for an example of, you know, the Mexican border, you know, the idea that there are children in cages. Like, as a mother, that just destroys me. That keeps me up at night. And so I can't imagine anyone who would support putting children in cages and stealing them from their parents. But there are people who are just as passionate about that being the right thing. And so with that example, I don't know that there is a space for us. I think that we could say, I disagree with you, but, you know, to come together and to sort of to take some of each other's points of view and fold it into ours, I think that there are certain things where that just is not possible, or at least it's not possible for me right now in my life.
Yeah. No, I get that. That's a really important point to raise. And there's always going to be certain things when you look at them through that lens, it's impossible, right? Like none of us can sit here and figure out what's going through someone's mind. And I think, Mandana, when you're talking about being there, can you tell us a bit more detail about what your experience was and what it was that really like pushed you and, you know, that moved you in the moment as Debra was referring to?
Yeah, that day changed my life. I had my second daughter, and she was a couple months old, and I was home on maternity leave. So I was just kind of in this natural pause, which I never had been before. You know, as someone who came to coming to America is very scary. Like when we landed in New York is one of the scariest places in the world to go to. It's this huge city. You know, we didn't speak any English. We had no idea where we were going. We had no money. And all I did was just hold my mom's hand. And that was like, I was going to be okay. Like we had no idea what we were going to do. We didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring, but like I had my mom, I was 6 years old, and it was going to be fine. The idea that someone so vulnerable that they would travel for months through forests and water, knowing they could die, to come to America for the same reasons we all did, which was to have a chance at a better life, to have safety, to have security, to have healthcare. And then somebody would take your kid away from you, and for the kid, take your mom away from you when you just went through the scariest experience of your life, and you are in a completely unknown place, and you probably don't speak the language, and you don't know anyone here, and you have no money left. I cannot understand. That is a human rights issue. It is not a political issue. There is no way I can have a conversation with someone that can say that that is justified. It was entirely punitive. And you do not punish children like that. That kid will never be the same. I still remember how horrifying the experience was of living in a war and having to sleep downstairs during bombings. I mean, the idea that we put these people in these and gave them like aluminum foil blankets and they had no idea where their parents were. As a mother, when you're in a grocery store and your daughter, like my daughter, turns the aisle and I don't know where she is for 1 second, that 1 second is 100 years. Like that is such triggering pain. And we lost some of these children. Like we have never found them. They like wrote their names on a Post-it note and gave it to someone. And it was like, Martha, like what? We don't know where some of these kids are. We've never reunited them with their families. Some of these kids have been orphaned. It was just, and I was looking at it. I'm like, but this is America. America is the greatest place in the world. America saved my family. America, I was always raised like America is the greatest thing in the world. And I love America. And I believe that a true patriot challenges America, right? We uphold it to its potential. And so it's okay to say that we're doing things wrong, but it's also important to fight for what is better. And I just got on a plane and I went to Texas. I was like, that was where the first camp was, where these kids were being held. And I was like, I need to see this. I don't believe it. I couldn't believe that was happening. And then I quit my job and started doing all the things. But it just was one of those moments where you realize like what is happening is bigger than me, and whatever aspirations I have to do whatever it was I thought at that time was more important.
Wow. I mean, thank you again for sharing that. It's just hearing it, like, it's so real just hearing it, and there's no part of it that can feel normal or okay or comfortable to even hear it. And it's what's so hard, I feel, and I'm trying to just really share with you what I'm hearing from so many people. And that's I'm just trying to be in that learning seat from both of you. I think for so many people, they're just like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by everything going wrong in the world, right? Like we talked about it right at the beginning, and it's like,
yes,
I'm just so overwhelmed by everything that's going wrong. Like this is going wrong, and then the political stuff directly is going wrong, and then I've got challenges in my own family, and the economy is struggling, and that kind of like paralyzes a lot of people.
Yeah,
like you just feel debilitated by all of this because you just like so much pressure and so much overwhelm. And then you watch the news, and you turn on the news, and you don't know if the information you're getting is correct. And then you're trying to do research and you struggle. Can you tell us some people or places that you've started to, and you spoke about mentors and people in your lives, who have been the people and the places or the books that you feel have really given you both an insight into reality? Or how can people get as close to reality as possible so that they don't feel misinformed or overwhelmed, which sometimes can be very real and sometimes can be excuses, right? We both know that they can be both for us. Sometimes they're just crutches and we're just like, I don't really have time or can't be bothered. And then sometimes it's real. It's just like, whoa, I'm an empath and I'm feeling the pain and it's a lot. And so what have you found for you and the people that you're working with to help you push out from that? Despite for me, it's just seeing the pain. Like for me, it's like hearing and seeing the pain just makes you want to rush there. But what have been some of the like guides in that journey? Who are those people? What are those places? What are those books? What are those communities or organizations where you see that happening?
Well, I mean, we've mentioned Shannon Watts. Mm-hmm. We learned so much about the pain of gun violence and the impact it's had on our children from her. Glennon Doyle, Representative Adam Schiff, who gave that beautiful closing speech at the end of the impeachment about the America that we all deserve, that we have yet to attain. These are people who, when they speak, it comforts me, and I trust them, and I feel like I'm learning every time I follow them. I also, I'm on Twitter. I had to be on Twitter because of my job. I hadn't for years. And what I've done is I just have started to follow professors and, professionals in our government, people who are, professionals in the health department, right now with COVID, just trying to understand and to go to the source, to experts, so that I feel that I have a touchstone, because we don't know.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is that, for the people that use it as a crutch or as an excuse, I'm like, I get it. I don't like paying my mortgage. There's some things like you're just an adult and you have to do, and you should know what's happening in the world. Like the baseline, like it's important to be informed. I do think like acknowledging your mental health and how you're responding to things is really important. So there are days where I see Debra and I'm like, it's too much. Like you turn off your phone, turn off your computer, like shut it down and like go hang out with your son and watch a movie. And so I do think that when you are too overwhelmed, you do need to honor that and kind of take a pause. I think, it's hard because the news can feel very divisive. It is so like clickbaity and, it's ratings driven now that it just feels like you're watching like a never ending football game of people just screaming at each other. And so, I mean, I personally followed, and so does Debra, but we follow Jessica Yellen. She does News Not Noise. And so her whole platform is amazing. And I text her all day and I'm like, is this supposed to bother me? And she'll be like, no, that's not important. It's okay. So people like her and Preet Bharara, who's also someone we covered, he, the way that Preet, thinks about justice in America is so, I just admire it so much. And so I really respect the way that he talks about the political issues that happen and how they affect everybody, and kind of how it doesn't really feel partisan when he speaks about it. It really feels like he comes at it from like a patriot who loves America, who understands the foundation of law and like, and how we need to uphold, the integrity of America. And I would say, I don't know, I mean, there's a million more, but I would say those for me are, sorry?
Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams is someone who I look to and follow, and I try to follow by example and learn from her. I think that there are, shining lights everywhere if you look for them. But Mandana is absolutely right. I mean, I'm an empath, so I get completely overwhelmed, and I can just get stuck and feel like I have to do more. I have to do more. Oh my God, did you see this and this and this and this and this? And I do need to turn to the people who I love and love me and know me to say, okay, you're not in a good space right now. You need need to just stop and go play the piano, because that heals your heart, and watch stupid television for a while. I do think that
Lord knows we are very good at that.
We're so good at it. And I'm really good at sleeping.
She's very good at sleeping.
That's a great skill. Sleeping is a great skill. What? Yeah, it's been, and I'm grateful for the way we've taken this conversation, because I do think that what you're both doing and what you both stand for is community and uniting for change, which I believe are heavy topics to talk about. And I can see that in the emotion on your faces and just the stories you're telling. And these are heavy topics, but the problem is that if we don't take them on, they're not getting any lighter.
Right.
And I think that's something that we can all agree on, that if something's heavy and you don't pick it up, it stays heavy and gets heavier. But
to your point, Jay, I think the thing that we try to talk a lot about in the podcast also is this, ask questions. I think people don't want to sound dumb. And so they're afraid to ask the things that they don't know. And the activists and the communities that are speaking actually are thrilled that someone's asking them, we had someone on who's talking about, what it felt, their whole journey being a trans athlete. And we were like, sorry, can you explain to us pronouns? How does that work? How do you ask someone what their pronoun is? Do you share yours? How do, Deborah presented a real life example. What was the right way? And he was like, thank you so much for asking. I'm so thrilled to share this. And that has been our experience every single time. And so sometimes fear becomes this barrier to you actually really even evolving your empathy in an issue. And so I think one of the other things I should have mentioned earlier is to just ask questions.
Yeah. Who in your podcast has surprised you the most with a perspective or an insight that kind of shocked you and has stayed with you, or a moment or an experience where you just that, that really made sense to me, or that really broke through the noise for me? For each of you, I'd love one from each of you. It'd be great.
Well, I think Amanda Min, she is not yet 30. And she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. She was a student at Harvard and was raped in her senior year, and the justice system was not there for her. And she realized that a law in Massachusetts didn't exist that should exist. And she said, well, so I just decided to write it myself.
What?
And I looked at her and I'm like, wait a second. You're 20. You're a survivor of a terrifying attack. You don't have any structure or any support system. And your impulse is, I will do it myself. And she said, well, obviously I don't know the language. So I went to Harvard Law School and I found a professor. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. Will you help me write this law? And he said, sure. And it was passed. 100% of it was passed. And now there are how many laws? In
30, I don't know, something. It's crazy. It's amazing
what
she's done.
That's incredible.
She ended up writing a survivor's Bill of Rights that is now being incorporated all over the country. But it started, it was that moment of her just saying, all right, well, I'll just write it myself. That really just, I think I had that reaction because deep down, I don't think of myself as a leader.
Mm.
I think of myself as a student who is willing to work really, really hard. And so for me, someone is a leader when they say, I will write the law. And I just have, until that moment, it never even occurred to me that I could do that. And here is this 20-something-year-old who did it.
I didn't know that story. I'm so glad that your podcast and your conversations are unearthing things like that for everyone to realize, because you're spot on, Deborah. It's until you know someone has done it, you don't even think about it. You don't even think about who makes the laws unless you've obviously been to law school. But if you're not, then you just, you have no idea. That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. What episode was that, out of interest, just so that my audience can go check it out?
That was our second one, right after Glennon.
Okay, amazing. Everyone, then you heard that. That's one that I'm going to go listen to straight after this podcast. So I really, really hope that you guys go and listen to that one. That sounds.
She is honestly.
That is insane.
Amazing. Oh, by the way, we forgot to add. She calls herself the civil rights astronaut. So she like found her way into an internship at NASA, and everything that she does is informed by her beliefs in NASA. And so by space travel. And I was like, what are you saying? I mean, the whole time Deborah and I were like, what is she talking about? This is the craziest stuff I've ever heard anyone say. But it was really.
By the way, she still intends to go to space.
Yeah, that's like where she's going.
Like
I believe her. I believe her.
That was just a little tributary on her, river of life. She's like, that's not really my thing. I've created two different, it was nuts. Mandana, what about you?
Yeah, Mandana, I want to hear yours as well.
Honestly, I don't know. I to answer your actual question of when I was the most surprised was not what I thought I would say, but I think it was Zach Scow, because I went into that episode. So Deborah and I each have a crush. And we were like, okay, in our 20s, since we really did this to meet these people, we were each going to like pick one person that we were just like obsessed with and dying to meet, who's also doing amazing work. And so hers was this incredible man named Zach Scow, and he's the rescue savior. And he's created this thing called Marley's Mutts and has rescued like thousands of animals. And he always rescues like the dogs that, nobody really wants to rescue so I went into that episode as like, okay, this is Deborah's like, I didn't really put so much thought into it. And I just kind of like sat down to listen. And his story, I mean, he was suffering from addiction and had liver failure and was basically on hospice and was told that he was going to die and went home to die and was at a point where everyone in the world had given up on him. And he talks about this moment where he knew that his life was ending and he had contemplated suicide so much and nobody even knew he existed anymore. And he was walking into the bathroom and he turned around and I could just, it was so, you could visualize it as he was speaking, but he was like, I turned around and I looked over, my dogs were looking up at me like I was the sexiest thing in the entire world because they still saw me and I was still in there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take my life. I'm going to go take them on a walk. And the next day I went on a longer walk and a longer walk. And we think of him as the rescue guy, but his dogs rescued him. And he speaks about how, and he does a lot now with rescuing animals and working with people in prisons and helping them become dog trainers. But his whole concept was about we as society have people, animals that we consider the throwaways. They're just beyond repair. We give up on them. They're in prison. We just kind of write them off. They're animals. They're missing a leg. We kind of write them off. And I've done that in my life. When he said that, I realized like I have a family member, that a very distant relative that I've just been like, I just don't think it's going to, there's much to do with her. And I felt so horrible in that moment because I do realize that so many of us give up on other people. And this idea that every life, every human, every animal, everyone is worth fighting for. And advocacy, it was just, I had not expected the conversation to go there at all. Deborah was hysterically crying. And of course he was crying and I was blown away by that conversation.
That's amazing. Wow. I love that one too. It's so interesting to hear about people that often we also don't ever hear about enough of, you know what I mean? Like the people that you're mentioning, like it's almost like these are not people that set out to be heroes or they're not people that set out to.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, we reference to the people that we interview as accidental activists. Mm. The intention was never there. Mm. That something happened and they had to do something and they did it. And that's what changed their lives. But yeah, these are not like sexy, flashy people. These are just people like you and me.
Yeah. That's amazing. I guess that hearing both of those stories just almost like fills me up with hope. It's almost like we when we started this conversation, I completely ignored all my notes. But when we started the conversation, which is a good conversation.
Those are the best.
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah, like when we started this conversation and you start seeing it. You're having a very deep, heavy discussion. We're hearing about stories and backgrounds and challenges and issues, and then all of a sudden you share these two amazing stories and I'm like, I feel uplifted, like I feel full from the belief that like there are people out there that I can either support or become because I care, right? And that's all it is. It's like I care. Like either I'm passionate about something or either I've experienced the pain of something, and that's going to push me into action. And there is hope. What gives both of you hope? Because hearing those stories gave me a lot of hope. And so the question that came to me with both of you who are, you're looking at on Twitter, you're on the news, you're speaking about this, you're having conversations, you're researching, you're supporting activists. What gives you hope and what makes you feel like good is happening and coming and that there is movement?
Well, I can say that the people that I've met doing the Dissenters absolutely have given me the most hope, because what they've shown me is that there are heroes everywhere. We just don't know them. And these heroes are working to make the world better today, right now. And that's what makes me maintain hope is really, really believing that there are all of these people around the world who are doing the work that I'm not doing, but is incrementally, even in the midst of a global pandemic, when everyone is scared, there's still people, making inroads, and things are going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm an eternal optimist. So I think that part of going back to kind of those formative years of my life and transitioning and coming to America, I think I've always felt this profound sense of luck. Like the only thing that was different from me and all the other people that couldn't leave was just pure luck. And so I think my whole life I've felt this need to help the luck of other people, like help balance whatever it was that tipped me over to this side of it. And I think when you think about like people in society and community, like everyone can share a little bit of their luck. And I think like a lot of what we're trying to do is elevate these voices and kind of prove that everyone has a story. Every single one of us has a story, and they're all, and whoever, like your problems are the biggest problems to you, right? And so it's like being able to look at someone in the eye and have compassion and empathy and find a way to say like, can I help you with that? Is there anything I can do? It's like when you're a kid and everyone teaches you to like help your neighbor with their groceries across the street, right? It's like, it's that same thing. It's just a little bit more of a grown up, right? It's like, what else can you do to show up for other people? And I think when you hear these stories, there's so many ways to create these tremendous changes in the world. And there's so many amazing people to continue to learn from that. Like, I don't know, it's all hope to me, right? I just think that there's still so much work to be done. And so I'm just focused on like, what else can we do? What else can we build? Like, how else are we going to do this? How are we going to grow this thing? And I don't know. I think it's just like, I'm a lawyer too. So there's this part of me that's very pragmatic. That's like, what are we going to build? What are we going to grow? What are we going to do? Let's fix that. What is the fix? Let's focus on the solutions. And I'm still, I think, unlearning a lot of my childhood things that I think were hard, but I never realized how much they prevented me from using my voice. So I think it's continuing to empower other people to just be who they are.
Yeah.
As corny as that sounds, but
no, not at all. What kind of stuck with me when you were saying that is part of what gives you hope is being a part of the solution and seeing people step up and change. Like, it's almost like you've got to be around the change to believe it's happening.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, we're not allowed around the change. We're around the problem. We're hearing the problem. We're reading about the problem. And therefore the problem just feels really big. Whereas when if you've ever gone out to help a refugee, if you've ever gone out to feed a kid who doesn't have food, or if you've done that and you've seen the change in that person's smile and their eyes and their life, and you've seen that, then you start to believe that there is change and change is possible. Because I think sometimes we get so lost in statistics and numbers, and we start thinking like, oh, well, one person, what does that matter? Or 10 people, what does that matter? But all of it matters, because for that person, it's their whole life. So,
but you could also change that statistic, right? And that's kind of where my brain keeps going with people. I'm like, maybe the problem is there because we're not showing up.
yeah.
We can improve the climate crisis if we show up, and we can change so many of the things that bother us if we voted, right? I mean, you can't, I'm like, it's not okay for you to sit and be upset if you're not going to do the work to fix it. And so, it's really just encouraging people to lean into it and just like show up for your country, show up for your issues, show up for your community. And I actually think people have exponentially more power than they know.
Yeah.
I think there's something, there's truth to the maxim that, if you're feeling depressed, help somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I do not know of one person who has helped another person and felt worse after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It always makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's fact. And that's why I want to encourage everyone who's listening and watching right now to definitely go and listen to the Dissenters podcast, and also follow Mandana and Debra on social media to find out new ways of getting involved. Because if you're sitting there right now and you've been listening to our conversation, and I've been guiding this conversation and facilitating it for anyone who, from what I hear, which I believe is the mass voice, and that's what I try and do, and what I've tried to do today, Mandana and Debra, with both of you, is the mass voice that I hear is, I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know where to start, I want to do something. And I think both of you have given so many great insights, so many messages of hope, and so many personal and collective stories that will galvanize and push people and activate people today to get involved. So, that was my simple intention there of which questions I was trying to answer, because I think sometimes a lot of the debate that I hear becomes so far intellectual for people. Mm-hmm. And intellectual debates don't make you feel something. And we all only do something when we feel something. We don't do something because we think it makes sense. Like you don't stop drinking or stop smoking because you know it's bad for your health. You do it because you lost someone because of that, or you lost something because of that. Everything has to be based on, I feel like emotion and feeling are so much more powerful activators. And I definitely feel that both of you have shared so many powerful messages today that have really connected with people's emotions. So thank you for sharing from the heart, because that's the only way to speak to others as well. And I want to end with two segments that we do at the end of the podcast. One is called Fill in the Blanks, and the other one is called The Final Five. The Fill in the Blanks, I'm actually really excited for both of you to fill in the blanks, because
I'm terrified.
You're both great communicators, and you get to define your terms. So here are your fill in the blanks. You can decide who goes first and second. I'm not going to pick. The heart of a dissenter is.
The heart of a dissenter is compassion.
I was going to say empathy.
Okay. The greatest person in the room is.
Jay Shetty, what are we talking about?
That's not true anyway. But no, I mean,
what are you talking about?
I want to know what you value as like the greatest individual in the room. I'm trying to understand your values without asking you, what is your value, Mandana?
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think the greatest person in the room is the person who is capable of not only listening but hearing.
Mm. That's beautiful.
Ooh, that is very true. I loyalty, like people that show up for me. I like, that is one trait I admire more than anything in the world.
I love that. Beautiful. Great answers, by the way, guys. Okay. Being a hero doesn't mean.
Being a hero doesn't mean you know everything.
Mm.
Oh my God, so many things. It doesn't mean that you have to be famous, rich, a lot of followers, anything. It literally just means that you have compassion and you show up.
Great answer. Okay, I'm really glad we're doing this. Okay, not voting is the same as.
Oh, not voting is the same as giving up.
Hmm.
not caring.
Great. Okay. And last one of the fill in the blanks. I wish everyone knew that.
I wish everyone knew that they were capable of enacting change.
Love that. Mandana?
I wish everyone knew that it is okay to be who you are, and that you don't need to be what other people want you to be.
Awesome. Okay, great answers. So reflective. I love it. This is the final 5 now. So these have to be answered in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum. Both of you did awesome on the fill in the blanks. So this is going to be a breeze for both of you. The first one is, what's something you want to give your children that you didn't have growing up?
Travel.
College money. Just kidding.
Okay, second question. What have you been chasing in your life in the past that you no longer pursue?
I want to swear, but I won't.
You can if you want to. I allow everyone to be who they are. You know?
You do? I would just say no fucks.
Okay.
That's what you're pursuing that you didn't, or it's the inverse?
No, the question is, what have you been chasing in your life that you no longer pursue?
People's approval.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Yeah, same. 100% the same. Like the whole people-pleasing thing. Terrible.
Okay. This one I really like. Think about it. So what's something that you're so sure about that others would disagree with you on?
That America is good and it's worth fighting for.
That's a powerful answer.
That every person is inherently good.
So powerful. Thank you. Okay, question number 4. What's the biggest lesson that you've personally learned in the last 12 months?
Surrender.
There's not always the right answer, and I don't have to be right.
That's the right answer. No, that's a good answer. Awesome. 5th and final question for both of you. And because I know you both have some laws in your background. So if you could create a law that everyone else in the world had to follow, what would it be?
That you have to vote.
Oh my God, stop taking my answer.
She goes quick. Deborah's getting quick every time.
So annoying.
I'm
literally wearing my voter necklace.
You went quick. She went quick. You have to give me a different answer. It's like Family Feud or whatever it's called.
Oh man. This isn't what you're asking, but we have Shabbat dinners every Friday in my family, and it like was the greatest part of my life in childhood. And I feel like people should be forced to sit with their families, assuming that it's okay at home, once a week, and just duke it out and like learn to work through family stuff.
It's beautiful. That's a great answer. That's absolutely fun. I love it. Thank you so much, Debra Mandana. That was so awesome. Your final 5 were. Your final 5 and you're filling the blanks with the deepest answers we've ever had. This is probably one of the most activating and empowering episodes that I believe we've had on Purpose, to be honest. I think that both of you are just full of light and hope and energy that I think we all need right now. And I love how you both do it with so much grace and power at the same time. So thank you so much, honestly. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and my audience for taking out the time, for having hopefully a very different conversation than one that you may have had before, and one that, you know, I'm hoping really touches a lot of hearts out there and gets people activated. And everyone who listened and loved today, you can go check out the Dissenters podcast. It's available right now across every platform. Please go and listen and hear these amazing stories. I know I'm going to go listen to episode 2 as soon as I can. I mean, that story really moved me and had a big impact on me. So please go and check it out. And Debra and Mandana, thank you.
Thank you.
So
oh my God, this was so fun. Thank you.
And now we're friends.
Yes, we are. I don't know. But no, I love that. Yes, we are. We are absolutely friends, and I cannot wait to spend more time with you both and hear more about everything that you're doing. It would be amazing.
You are a constant inspiration. It's been an honor.
No, you're very kind.
Thank you.
Very kind. No, thank you both so much. Honestly, this was wonderful, and you know, I'm saying this to you offline, and I don't mind if it's shared either online. But you know, my goal was just, I'm constantly trying to appeal to people's hearts, because I feel like people know what's right, but they just don't know how to do anything about it. Hey everyone, my name's Shetty, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Every week I'm sharing 3 videos that are going to help you feel more fulfilled, feel more happy, and more successful. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can find out about the videos as soon as they launch. Press the like button and leave a comment, and let's keep making wisdom go viral together. Make sure you subscribe.